You're watching Telecom TV from the TIP Summit 2019 in Amsterdam. And joining me now is Ron Marquardt, VP of Technology Development at Sprint. Ron, thanks for joining us on Telecom TV. Why is open networking and the work that TIP is doing of relevance and importance to Sprint?
Well, I think the whole open process, whether it's for hardware or for software, is very important for many industries, but telecom, it's the future. Our current vendors are great, but we want to have as many avenues for innovation as possible, and opening up some of the key interfaces more than exist today allows for that. As an example, I've seen many different startups that have interesting technology, very interesting technology, in part of a small cell, not the whole small cell, but specifically part of full duplex is one example. And when you ask them how they're going to bring their technology to market, they tell us that they're going to make a whole small cell to sell to us, which means not only are they going to have to be expert in their very key technology that they've known and developed from scratch, but they now have to equal an Ericsson or Nokia, Samsung capability in small cells, and that's the full 3GPP stack. And it's a big ask of a vendor, and it also lowers our confidence that we could bring them to market. Having these open interfaces allows us to look at ways to work with our existing vendors and new innovative companies to combine technologies.
On the one hand, this gives CSPs such as Sprint a wider choice, but on the other hand, I presume it leads to more complex integration challenges.
Absolutely, but key to that is with open interfaces, at least you're much more likely to interoperate than trying to put a startup's technology into some proprietary OEM system that's almost a non-starter.
What are the main challenges in the provision of connectivity in dense urban areas?
Yeah, for us with 5G, we're using the same spectrum, 2.5 gigahertz or band 41, N41, both for LTE as well for 5G. So the coverage perspective on a site, an existing site, is straightforward. And although we're doing massive MIMO radios, they're actually not massive in the sense of weight and wind load. So they're actually smaller. The challenges just remain the typical physical permitting process and access to a site and climbing a tower, which always has dangers and time scales associated with it.
So what are the benefits of a disaggregated RAN? Where's the business case?
Well, disaggregated access allows a lot of innovation to apply to various parts of the RAN. There's multiple ways to disaggregate within 3GPP in terms of interfaces, and then using white box hardware and being able to get to a place where really you separated out the common, generically the same hardware from the real innovation which is in the software space. That's really the key value add, and from our perspective, something worth pursuing with vendors.
How mature is the technology today, and what additional work still needs to be done?
Well, what Sprint is leading within TIP is the OpenRAN initiative around 5G small cells. And that work is relatively new. The group just formed and started taking off this year. So from that perspective, it's still early days on what we're driving for there. But small cells especially are a great target for the sort of white box disaggregated concept, because now you have really low-end, lower cost hardware that really is lower margin for anybody. And to the degree you commoditize that and then add the value in software on top, it helps everybody out in the ecosystem.
Is there a significant difference to how the industry approaches 4G Open RAN compared to 5G Open RAN?
It's just a different project within TIP, and we're not involved in the 4G side of things, so I can't really comment on status there. Although clearly we had operators announce public deployments, so obviously these are major operators. They feel confident enough in it. We already had our 4G network built, and it really didn't make sense for us to go and do something new because we already have that in place.
So Sprint is focused on 5G Open RAN, especially with small cell deployments.
Yeah, we already have rolled out in 9 markets in the United States, some of the biggest cities, New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and a total of 9 markets. And in those are with our existing vendors, that because this was using the same spectrum that we'd already deployed in LTE, in many cases it was a very simple upgrade to their existing equipment for us to add 5G and LTE. It's basically a new radio head, massive MIMO. Whereas small cells are new field. We do have small cells for 4G, but for 5G the requirements are different. It looks a little bit more like less of MIMO, what we're trying to pursue. And so doing so within the TIP process made a lot of sense.
What's your message to the vendor ecosystem? Are they listening to your needs? Are they delivering what you require from them?
I think that in general, like I said, with the 5G small cell project, it's still early days, so it's hard to say anything specifically positive or negative there yet. But I do think in general, we at Sprint, my team specifically, does more longer range work. And we try to work with startups in a way that sort of matches their impedance. They want to move quickly. Sprint is a bigger company, doesn't necessarily move as quickly. But we can sometimes move more quickly, at least to get trial some things out on my team. Or we can get quickly to a no if we don't think that what they're offering is going to make sense to us. They may not be the best message to a startup, but at the same time, I think they'd rather get the no earlier than to wait a year and a half to hear that same answer. So we've always engaged with startups in a very proactive way. Now we're under TIP. We was announced earlier today, and the press release is coming out as I speak right now. Announced a new TIP community lab at our facilities in our headquarters in Overland Park, Kansas, specifically related to what we're doing in OpenRAN 5G small cells. So if you have NR technology and are very interested in that project, you can engage with my team and through the TIP process and go into the community lab, and we'll see how we can work together.
Ron, thank you very much for joining us on Telecom TV.
Thank you.